following is a conversation with a friend of mine, Eliøt. I hope you enjoy it as much as I have. And now, dear friends, the podcast.
We can use my phone.
It doesn't matter. I mean, it's a specific app and stuff. Yeah, we just have to check it from time to time so that it doesn't log out like
It's still on.
like it did. Yeah, it is on. All right. So we are doing the podcast.
Yes,
as you can
so
see,
like
we are
an
very
interview.
professional. You know, there's a whole.
You look like
desk
a
here.
boss from a really large company.
Of course.
Yeah, of course.
Now, thank you for coming into my office. What are your interests, Eliøt?
Well, I would say deep space facts, the universe in general, most of science stuff, and dark magic, paleontology, and maybe also archaeology. But
What does dark magic mean?
dark magic, it doesn't mean I believe in it or anything. I mean, I was raised in some kinds of like beliefs,
All right.
and in some kinds of, I don't know how to say it, I mean, just way of living.
Mm-hmm.
And well, I learned about different cultures, different kind of magic.
Yeah.
When I say dark magic, I talk about all magic in general. And well, what
All
people
magic is dark magic.
well, I think that what people call magic, it's just something that you can explain with the science. But
Yeah.
actually, you can.
I mean, that makes sense. I mean, you know, spooky action at a distance is... I mean, electromagnetism was once spooky action at a distance, and then Einstein later called quantum physics that. But, you know, before we could explain magnetics, that was definitely spooky action as a distance.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
So, well, what I'm saying is that definitions change. And, you know, in the same way that whenever we discover a scary creature, we immediately call it the name of an animal, you know, we give it a Latin name and everything, and that it no longer is a monster.
Yeah.
Right, like, you know, they're bears. There are plenty of really scary creatures in the world, but none of them are monsters because a
did
monster
you know
is something
in
unknown.
Yeah, in southern France, in the Middle Ages, they used to call the great white sharks. They are in the Middle.
The great what?
The great white sharks.
Mhm.
They used to call it poisson, and it used to be like a giant monster from
There
the
are
sea.
great white sharks in France.
No, in the southern France, in Mediterranean Sea.
In the Mediterranean, there are great white sharks in the... All right.
Actually, yeah, you
I
can
did
search
not
it
know.
out. There is, and they used to call it poisson, and until the 1700s, I think, it used to be like a great monster. People would see it as a monster, and it was based on like fishermen just relating the events and just saying that it was large with big teeth, and just the monks drawing it in the books, and it looked like a giant monster.
I mean, there are plenty of examples like Lafayette, you know, the general who fought in the American War, Revolutionary War. He, when he was a kid, he tried to find and kill the Beast of Gévaudan, if you've heard of it.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
And you know, was wounded by the Maid of Gévaudan, who has a statue today in France somewhere. And so yeah, it's just interesting history. There are plenty of cases of scary monsters in forests.
Yeah, it's like the African unicorn. In Central Africa, there's plenty of records
Sounds like a
from
rhino.
the elder colons. They used to say that the people there were believing in unicorns, kind of unicorn-like creatures, and the colons really they had seen it, and so some researchers and all they went in 1901, I think, and they found the okapi.
The what?
The okapi. And it's
I-
a really shy creature.
I know it's an animal, but I can't visualize it
Well,
right now.
I'm searching out
All right.
so we can have a visual. It said it's
We
also
don't have a guy to do this yet.
it's also the Mogeleem Gembe. It's like a brontosaur-like
Mhm.
thing. They used to recall it in northern Congo, Central Africa, and well, some people went in National Geographic and
Yeah.
they saw it, but we have no proof of that. Well, look, the
I was
okapi.
just imagining
The
it as
okapi kind of looked like a zebra, but it's not a zebra. It's really shy, and that actually was the unicorn, even though he has no horns at all.
Sure. Yes, of course. That's the okapi. It
It was
does look
found
like a
in
strange creature.
1901, and well, it used to be like a legend. But
All right. So what does dark magic mean?
well, dark magic, I would say, it's like the combination of all beliefs, all practices, all cultures that believe in some kind of magic and some kind of, I don't know, witches, wizards. And well, I've seen some of them. difference for the most of them, but some were really similar. And I saw some kinds of weird stuff that I cannot explain, but I'm sure there is scientific thing behind it. But I saw some kind of weird stuff. And well, I have plenty of books also that
So you're
talk about.
interested in figuring this out?
Yeah, that's really funny sometimes.
Is it like voodoo magic, kind of like a? I mean, voodoo culture in general. Is it? I mean, it's kind of because it arose from slavery.
Yeah.
In the Antilles and
I know, I've been there.
Yeah, I know. I've been there too. But it's like a sort of concentration of like various African cultures.
Exactly.
And so it must be a really interesting like concentration of like various African magic beliefs, etc.
Back in Guyana, there was this thing in Guyana that I don't know. It was part of the voodoo. It went into the voodoo later, but it was first called Chimbwa. And the Chimbwa is a kind of like forest magic, and it's using the spirits to do stuff. And that's where I saw people were smoking like some kind of some kind of roots called moku moku.
All right.
And when I smoked that,
when you smoked the moku moku,
when you
decided, all right.
Yeah, actually, when you smoke the moku moku, you're like, I cannot. Your eyes turn red. Like the blank of the eyes turn red. It's like your eye, okay?
Yeah.
Like your productivity increased by.
Your productivity increases.
Yeah, but you also some kind of people has levitation smoking wuku wuku.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you mean by your productivity increases? Like you remember like increased focus? Like
increased focus, increased memory.
What age were you when you?
Well, when I saw the moku moku, I was 13.
13. All right.
13. 12, 13. I heard about the moku moku. I saw people who were smoking a lot of moku moku.
You're like, I want to smoke some moku moku.
No, I didn't smoke any moku moku because it's really toxic and you can smell.
Oh, okay.
It
I
smelled
thought
like
you said when I smoked the moku moku.
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
I did not. Just you can see the people. I didn't. Anyway.
All right. So that's what you call dark magic. So it's just what like I was gonna say like mysterious cultural elements that I don't know.
Yeah, unexplainable things.
Okay.
Like for example, in Africa, there's an albino traffic. And well, this albino traffic is not for the people itself; it's for the bones. And there's a special code. You come to some dealers that sells the bones. That's illegal in most of the countries, but they still do it. And well, you get a code, like 1 is for children, 2 is for men, 3 is for pregnant women, 4 is for old women, and plenty of that. And you just say 4, and they bring in, they said how much, you say, I don't know, 3, and they will say jaw, and there will be 3 jaw bones. And that's
human bones.
Human bones from albino people.
Albino people specifically.
Yeah.
So just go to
it's
tombs.
To practice dark magic.
Oh, okay.
No, they don't. They kill them.
They kill them.
They hunt them, they kill them. And sometimes people with like the albino people in the family, they just give it away because they don't have any money. They said give it away and you have plenty of money, plenty of rice. Well, they give the rice. I mean, when you have like 53 children, I don't know, and like you can't even feed yourself properly.
And they still do this in the 21st century.
They still do that in the 21st century.
In Guyana. All right.
No, not in Guyana. In Africa.
Oh, Madagascar. All right.
In Madagascar, it wasn't really common since they were really hiding in the forest, so it's really big, But when I went to Kenya, it was really common, and I mean they were practicing this with the Magash people, and they used the Magash people boats to like transport it in all Africa. And since I'm a boat guy, I've seen plenty of stuff.
All right, interesting. So you're interested in what? In learning the science behind this?
The science, yes, and the origin of all that. I mean, human, they mean like to be attached to something, to be rationalized. When the first humans came, they couldn't explain anything, so they blamed it on the gods, but it's kind of the same thing, So, well...
And so, how are you interested in learning what's behind this? Like, you're going to read books, you're going to go meet them?
Well, I met them, most of them.
Yeah.
Not all of them, it's impossible in a lifetime, but...
Well, yeah.
Yeah, but, all that, I'm going to do just researches and meet them, like you said.
But it's still a mystery to you.
It's still a mystery. Oh, some of them I found out.
Like what?
Well, yes, exactly. There was this temple. It was in Guyana still, in the southern part of Guyana, with the frontier with the Suriname. And well, there was this flame, okay, and people would say, "Oh, it's the holy flame," and they were like a shaman, okay, a druid, and he had this flame, and he could say, "Oh, I'm the messengers from the gods. This flame won't hurt anybody."
All right.
And they were like, "Yeah, sure. You can put your hand in the flame, and it doesn't burn. I did it."
Cool.
Yeah. Anyway, that was a part of it, and another part of it is that he could align 3 people, put like some ashes and some incandescent, I don't know, breezes, and he invited some people to walk over it, and they just walked over them, like fakirs, for example, and they didn't find anything. And the people on the back, they fed everything for everybody.
Yeah.
Like, the people standing in the back, they were like crying in pain, and the people that walked over the fire didn't feel anything.
Okay.
And that was really interesting until I figured out what happened. I didn't figure out how they walked over the fire, but the fire that doesn't burn,
the flame that you can put your hand in.
Yeah, I know what happened. Actually, it's called a cold fire, and that's actually a scientific phenomenon. In France, you call it le feu grégeois.
Yeah.
It's a fire that the more you put water over it, the more it just burns. And well, if you put enough chemicals in it, I don't know what they did with some kind of plants, but it became cold fire. Yeah, cold fire.
Oh, cold fire. Yes.
Just search.
So you can figure it out. Cold fire. Wikipedia. Interesting. May refer to cold fire 2016. Cold fire, a type of fire used by the Noongar people. Who are the Noongar people? Cold fire, frequently used by the Noongar Aboriginal culture of Western Australia. So not here, but low intensity does not damage the middle or... Okay. No, well, this isn't what you're talking about, but...
No, it's not.
But it doesn't much matter. Like,
I searched it out, and well, what?
Do you know what the chemical behind it is? Like,
no, I don't remember, but I know that the Hindu people also had this, and the Orthodox people also had this.
I imagine that, whatever culture discovers this scientific phenomenon,
they have the fire that doesn't burn, and they say, "Jesus Christ, it's Vishnu," and I'm like, "Yeah, sure, it's cold fire, man." And anyway, there's the weird stuff behind it, and there's also this man in the same frontier with Suriname. There's plenty of weird stuff happening there, and well, he sold like plates. He sold plates, and there's this belief about the Baklu. I already talked to you about the Baklu.
I don't think so. What's
okay, the Baklu is something like really spread around the culture in northern South America, and it's basically a tiny being, like an homunculus.
What?
In alchemy, homunculus.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of same thing. You made it,
Homunculus.
and then you just ask for anything, and it does it.
All
but he does it by like infliging pain to everybody around you.
All right.
And well, this Baklu, to make it is really hard. But once you have it, it will start slowly like making hurt to yourself, but you won't see it. Like for example, you say, well, I don't know. Oh yeah, this party was fire, and you take fire. That's expressions. Take it literally.
I've seen a movie that studied that kind of concept. It was a guy who was telling bedtime stories to his kids, and every time that he would tell a story, it would become true somehow, because he was apparently one of the characters, something like that. It was rather funny when I was like 8. It made me laugh. So there we go.
You laugh.
That's my participation for this. Right. So the homunculus. So.
And well, the Baklu was really bad seen by the people. People with the Baklu, they would claim they have a Baklu. Yeah. They were like, "I have a Baklu," and they were like,
"Stay off."
Yeah, stay off. Keep off from me. And even the family was cut off. And well, he was told that this guy saw the plates, and Baklu was hiding inside the plates. Because Baklu is really good at hiding. Other people can't see the Baklu. It's not disappearing, just hiding somewhere. And sometimes you hear little voices or little cracks in the room or in the forest. You're like, it's not a lizard, it's not the iguana, I don't know. It's the backloo. It's the backloo. And well, it was said that this guy sold this to inflict bad backloos to the guys that just bought the plates. And well, I went to see this guy. It was still there. It was. And something that was weird is that it's been centuries since we have record of this man with the backloos. And I mean, you can't live multiple centuries. No. And in fact, it's a family thing.
Yeah.
And well, I figured that out. In fact, I think it was the great-grandfather of this guy. He killed someone. And his reputation just went down.
Yeah.
And with the blah, blah, blah between the people, it just became this guy selling bad backloos. Yeah. That's all. Mystery solved.
All right. Regular plates.
Regular plates.
It was iguana noises this whole time.
Yeah.
I see.
But for centuries. And it was really believed. Don't approach this guy. He's weird. I mean, he was, but...
So, 2 mysteries solved so far.
Yeah.
Out of a million mysteries.
Yeah, a million.
Dark magic.
I don't think there is another one I solved.
So let's go video.
What?
Never mind.
Oh, say it.
Yeah, never mind.
Say it.
Well, I was speaking to you about Karl Barks, the guy who made that poster.
Karl Marx.
Karl Barks. He makes Uncle Scrooge comics. Well, you were reminding me of a few stories by him.
Yeah.
And also, Scooby-Doo, which is...
Tell them.
The point is, there's always a mystery. It's always a monster. It's always a human in a monster costume.
Always.
Yeah.
Do you know about the masculinity?
I don't know what that is.
Well, the masculinity is same in Guyana.
Oh, okay.
It's a kind of creature that's just big enough for a child to be like eaten by it. And anything. That's what is said in the stories.
All right.
It's always oral stories, and sometimes it's written in books. But anyway, and well, the masculinity has like reverse foot, so when he walks in the forest, you can't follow it. You always head the other way around, and he has like emerald green teeth. And kind of small with dark eyes, and well, he can imitate the voices to eat the weak people. Down the weak people and the weak animals. For example, the old people that disappear, it's the masculinity.
It's the masculinity.
Yeah, the young children that disappear, the chicken, it's the masculinity. And well, that's not a mystery solved, but it was really weird because you had artifacts. You had the masculinity teeth.
Little pieces
there's
of
some
emeralds.
people that have well, maybe, but it's really convincing.
Or it looks like emeralds.
You have the masculinity arm, and I don't know where this arm comes from, but it's really convincing. I mean, it is an arm.
It is
with 5 fingers and like really long claws and like really long hair, and I saw it and I was like, damn, man. So I think it's taxidermy.
Yeah, well, they used to make mermaids by putting monkey parts onto fish.
Yeah, I saw it. It's really weird. But this one wasn't mummified or anything. Yeah, it still has flesh on it. Yeah. But really convincing flesh. I mean, when you touch it, it's really like a dead thing because it's conserved in the congelator.
Yeah. They just, the artifact is important enough. Let's just stick this in the freezer. Yeah.
And well... That's all. The masculinity, and you can even hear the noises at night in some places. So I bet it's just a screaming monkey, but it doesn't make you. It's like the blonde hair, white eyes Indians. They said that in the southern part of the country, the blonde hair, white eyes Indians that just kills you if you went into the territory. And well, we never found them, and that's really weird.
Yeah,
but we found artifacts.
I mean, what would you say is the most mysterious continent? Like the one with the most mysteries hiding inside?
Oh, sure, Africa. For sure.
All right.
For sure.
Well, I was thinking in part, like the Amazon could be a pretty good contender because it's just a really, really thick forest.
Yeah.
So anything in there is going to be hidden. And then there are a few random places across the globe, like the Sentinel Island,
Oh, I know the Sentinel
Island. Yeah. In the Indian Ocean. This could be a pretty good transition. some people think that the solution to the Fermi paradox is that aliens have a sort of pact of non-interference with any primitive alien civilizations like us. And that the reason why we don't see aliens is because they don't want to affect us. But I mean, a lot of people say that would be baloney. But at the same time, we have that case right now, the Sentinel Island. People who are still living like they're in the Bronze Age, and
not even the Bronze Age.
Yeah, I mean,
it seems like they don't even know how to manipulate fire.
They don't have
They
fire.
know fire, but they don't have fire. They don't know how to make it, but they know it.
Well, these people are presumably still dying from the common flu, and even though it would be, that would be part of the things that they would have to contend with if we actually tried to interfere with them. A few people have tried stepping onto the island and they got speared to death.
Yeah.
And so it's just interesting, like that. This is what we choose to do. We choose not to interfere with this random little island. So
yeah. There's plenty of people that we didn't contact in the Amazon too.
Yeah.
And well,
but the case is, I mean, the Sentinel Island case is much more clear than the Amazon case would be because
we don't
this
really
is completely isolated because it's a tiny island. It's really isolated, and so the planes. I think planes are actually diverted so that they don't go over the island. But it's like we could at least like drop supplies with a drone or something. There were actually some religions that popped up during World War II for
the Santa thing.
For supplies sent.
But
by
it was over the
Americans.
Pacific.
Yeah,
this one is not over the Pacific.
I know.
It's in India.
Well, it is in the Pacific.
No, it's in the Indian Ocean.
Yeah,
next to India.
Doesn't that technically count as?
Oh.
Battery may soon run out. Oh yeah, we're at 14%. Yeah.
You wanna use my phone?
Yeah. If you download the app.
Okay, I'm gonna download.
If it can work.
Well, we're not gonna restart it. We're just gonna put the two together.
Yeah.
Okay, come on. I'm using my phone.
Alright, we can do that now. Alright, well, goodbye everybody. Part 2.
I like myself.
Alright, well, part 2. We downgraded the... Oh, I forgot to close the door. We downgraded the quality...
Really?
Of the video.
Well, I mean, it's fine.
We're at 720p.
It's a podcast. We're just supposed to listen to people.
Exactly. The microphone should be fine. Alright, so what we were talking about was the Sentinel Island and non-interference policy and the Fermi Paradox. Wait, actually, could you remind us what the Fermi Paradox is?
Well, the Fermi Paradox is saying that, well, if Earth... Well, if I remember it, if Earth has life, and there's plenty of billion, unimaginable amount of planets and stars, and it's still expanding, and we can basically go to the next star in some generation, in millions of years, we can colonize the galaxy.
Yeah.
Where are the aliens?
Yeah.
And
well, they would have already colonized it if so far. Well, I mean, the universe isn't... I mean, it is expanding, but the likelihood of life is probably not rising.
Yeah.
I mean, well, it is technically just because of probability, but, the whole set isn't really rising. So the Fermi Paradox is one of the most perplexing problems that we have as humanity right now because it seems pretty easy to build a Dyson sphere. We would definitely detect Dyson spheres in our neighborhood, and we don't see any. We don't see anything. Yeah,
we talked about the Taubutis last time. Taubutis, where some Indian researchers find some anomalies they never saw.
Yeah.
It was like if a swarm of some kind of object was orbiting a star. So else it's just debris.
Yeah.
Else it's a Dyson sphere.
Or it's dust.
It could be, because we determined that if there are aliens, we could just see the Dyson sphere first. Because
it has a specific heat signature too. Because no Dyson sphere is going to be 100% efficient. So you could have a lot of waste energy coming out of those things. All right.
Well, it's more of a Dyson swarm.
So, in your opinion, do you think there are aliens out there or not?
Yeah, I think so.
Why?
Well, I mean...
Also, what do you mean by alien? Like what's the level of life here we're talking about?
Oh, I'm talking about animals. The biggest thing, right. I think, animals. Sentience, maybe, but not we know it.
There could be a planet full of dinosaurs. And
no, dinosaurs. It's only on Earth. And maybe it's made out of another thing that
you know what I mean when I say dinosaurs.
Yeah.
It's like something that size. The dinosaurs didn't have a space program. They died.
Yeah, we don't know. Maybe they had, and maybe they're gonna come back, like in Rick and Morty. The dinosaurs came back.
I don't remember that.
they made it where.
What season are you talking about?
It's one of the last seasons.
I watched season 5. I think that's.
Look.
That's the limit of my knowledge.
They came back. In fact, they're like godlike beings in the universe because they colonized every planet and made it.
Well, don't spoil too much.
Well, it's dinosaur, Saurus, Rick and Morty, and well, it's a talking T-Rex. Oh yeah, here they
like
are.
Talking T-Rexes. Actually, I wonder.
Look, they look like this. They actually have ships and all, and they take control of the government.
Okay, yeah. The style.
I mean, some people
that's just
that watching this already saw Rick and Morty, but so yeah, that's what I mean. Some kid. Did you know that?
It's precarious, but yeah, no, never mind.
Oh,
I'll put it back to its. Actually. Oh, yeah.
Here you go.
Well. That's okay.
So, did you know that if there was anything that would happen to Earth, like the sun will die, without damaging the Earth, I precise, okay? If we had like global warming that would kill everything on Earth, okay? One thing would never die.
What?
The abyssal life forms.
Oh.
They will never die. Even if the sun would like completely like just die.
When we became a rogue planet and we'd still have
exactly.
life right down there.
It would just be an icy planet.
Well, so long as the core of the Earth is still.
They don't depend from the plankton. They just depend from the chemicals that came out from the
and
from the core. Yeah, from the core.
Because you need a heat difference between the water and then
the core would still be active, so they would still be alive
for a long time. I wonder if the core, because we're the only rocky planet with like a very active core.
Venus also.
Yeah. Well, Venus also because I wonder if it's like an ice cube and the square cube law. The larger the ice cube, the slower it melts. And if it's the same thing for planet cores, that since we're the largest Mercury.
Well, no. Look at Jupiter.
Just.
I mean, it's a gas planet,
but it has a huge core. I mean, it has a. Isn't the core of Jupiter like solid and the size of
iron
or so?
It's made of iron.
Okay.
And it's actually really active, but not that much.
Like molten iron, or
yeah, that's
like ours.
Not molten, but it's due to pressure.
Warmer or colder?
Colder.
I mean,
us is a lot warmer.
So it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously, there's a lot of energy going on Jupiter, but the actual core. Yeah, but right. Well, this is why a lot of scientists think that if we're going to find life, we're going to find it on super Earths. What we call, like the rocky planets larger than Earth. Because they may not be the best place for like a spacefaring civilization or an intelligent civilization. Partly because, it takes a lot of energy to get off our planet, like a lot of energy. And so a super Earth, just laisse tomber. And, but it could be likely that, like a single cell or multicellular life can appear.
No, that could already appear on Titan.
A lot of warmth, slower time to cool for the core to cool down, and just larger surface area, larger everything.
Yeah, what I meant when I say the rogue planet with like the abyssal life forms, I meant about Enceladus and Io, both like just frozen moons, but with a lot of oceans under it, like a big 4 kilometers wide.
I was going to ask which planets they were, but then I remembered my Greek mythology, and that Io was a lover of Jupiter, of Zeus, and that Enceladus was a brother of Saturn.
Exactly.
Or maybe not brother. Brother. Oh, all right.
Saturn.
Mythology correct.
Who's Saturn then?
Kronos.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. As they gave the Roman names to the planets and the Greek names to the moons.
Not especially. There's one planet that's named after a Greek god.
That's named after a Greek god?
Yeah.
Oh, Uranus?
What?
Uranus?
Uranus, yeah. Sure.
And it's
Uranus.
I'm pretty sure its moons are named after Shakespearean characters, not
Thetis.
Greek. Yeah, I think. Wait, what?
Triton?
Oh,
Thetis?
yeah, maybe not. Wait, Triton is.
Yeah, Triton.
Oh, okay. Well then, never. Wait, why would I say that though? I think it's Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Maybe it's Neptune you're talking about.
A few. No, I don't think it's.
Yeah. Neptune also has. Oh, do you heard about Sedna?
Who? What?
Sedna.
No. What
It's like the furthest object we know of in the solar system. They are like a ellipsis orbital trajectory.
Everybody is.
So, yeah, but this one...
more elliptic than...
And he's...
Well, the farther away, the
look.
more elliptic we could
Set
guess, right? Doesn't Mercury have
this-
the roundest
this planet.
orbit?
It's
Dwarf planet?
look, a dwarf planet, the
Yeah, discovered in
outermost
2003.
reaches of the solar system discovered in 2003. Look, it's sad now. It's reversed, but and look, the trajectory.
Yeah. Yeah.
The for a
All the
scale.
way in.
Did you know that you see the
Yeah.
the purple one?
That's
It's
Neptune.
Pluto.
Oh, Pluto.
Look.
Yeah. How many does it go all the way to the Oort cloud goes a light year away from us around, and that's the outer limits of the solar system. Is this in the Oort cloud?
Yeah, sure.
So
That's still the Oort.
So that may be 1 light year.
No, the Oort cloud is stopping right there.
I need to know my science better, honestly.
No, it's okay. And
The-
I mean, it's
the further
perturbing plenty of comets.
The further away, the more elliptic, right? That could be a
Not always, but
No.
I mean, objects that are far away, they were ejected by the sun when
Yeah.
it was born. So sure,
So-
when you eject something,
Yeah.
it just falls down. And it's
Parabola.
the same thing.
Yeah.
It came and
It's a
then
parabola, yeah.
yeah, it's parabolic, and it's the same. Our planets are more like circular because we had time to stabilize and stuff, and the other that weren't just got eaten by the sun.
Which planet has the roundest orbit?
The roundest?
Mhm.
Oh, I don't know that.
I would
It's-
imagine Mercury, but
which maybe.
sounds right.
I think it. The roundest.
Orbit, yeah. What is the most circular?
I'm sure it's Mercury. No, it's Neptune
What?
and Venus.
What?
I told you it doesn't.
All right.
It doesn't matter.
Well, this is what I mean by I have to get better
It's
at my
Venus and
science.
Neptune. Well, we don't plan it.
We don't plan it.
We don't
Episode
plan
6.
it. Episode
Alright.
6. I mean,
We're not planning.
how you
on-
wanna call this podcast?
What?
How you wanna call this podcast?
I don't know.
We don't
The
plan it. The
No, no.
podcast.
I don't want to make it about specific subjects because the point is, meeting interesting people like you and having long enough conversation that we talk about really, really fascinating things. And so I'll speak to anybody I can get my hands on. And so yeah, any subject will do. I mean, for now we've talked about dark magic and the Fermi Paradox, which is a rather fun mix.
And space.
Well, yeah.
About sad minds.
More space than the Fermi Paradox, actually.
More space. Space.
So you think that there are aliens in animal form, and why do you think they haven't been able to evolve into us? Like, what makes us different from
What
the
make
other
it
animals?
environment? And I mean, it's really
What, you mean an environment specific to Earth?
yeah, and we had like plenty of chances. Like for example, when we used to be like not at the top of the
Hunter-gatherers? Yeah.
food chain,
Before
when there were way bigger things that killed us.
Yeah.
They all died at some point at the same time.
Yeah, we were hunting mammoths too.
No, but we needed to be plenty. Okay, and that was much later. They all died at the same time.
Big animals, all right.
They all died at the same time.
Yeah.
That's what literally propulsed us to.
You think?
Yeah.
I think that's what led us. Well, okay, so like, how did civilization arise? So you get rid of the big predators. This is what you're saying.
Yeah, we used to be eaten by everything.
We were in the middle of the food chain, we were in
At the bottom.
Yeah.
We would die for
Well,
everything.
not at the bottom because we would
I mean,
hunt.
look at other
That's what I
animals. We don't have claws. We don't have solid
yeah.
skin. We don't have.
We have brains that
fangs.
take 20% of our energy.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
and,
that's
and we take a lot of time to like grow up.
that are heavy too. I mean,
Yeah, we take a
and-
lot of
and we
time to
take,
grow
like,
up.
20, yeah. I
And
mean,
we don't have any weapons
brains
to.
can be fully developed.
Yeah, and
Well, I mean,
it's so
any
easy
weapons.
to kill a human. Try to kill a rhino like this.
Yeah, of course.
You.
Of course. Well, yeah, we were
And they
disadvantaged.
all died because
So,
of the changes.
when I said middle, I didn't mean the specific middle of the ecosystem. I meant, we weren't total prey and we weren't total predator either.
Yeah.
We were both predator and prey.
We used to be scavengers.
Which I've read a book actually whose hypothesis was that prey and predator, like the intelligent animals, are going to be both prey and predator because that takes the most awareness in the world. You have to be both aware of prey and predators. It's pretty amazing. And we have strange eyes. Like predators, like cats, will have eyes that can see things close to the ground that they can attack. And prey like sheep and such can see all around. Yeah,
with the small
fish,
eyes.
Yeah, fish or like the sheep with like their weird horizontal eyes. Versus the vertical eyes of the fish.
Same for the octopus.
We have round eyes, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, and the octopus too. Actually, the octopus. Well, in this book, Children of Ruin, the second book in a series, which is a great series. The first one talks about spiders, intelligent spiders, by Adrian Tchaikovsky, and in Children of Ruin, it is octopi who are the smart creatures, and it's really fascinating to see consciousness from their perspective, because they have 9 brains.
9 brains and 3 hearts.
And 8, and 3 hearts.
1 for each heart.
Well, 3 hearts doesn't really matter in this case because we're talking about consciousness, but yeah, it's really fascinating to see how they interact with their.
It's not really brains.
8 brains. Yeah,
control
small
center.
Brains. Yeah, well, he describes it as crown as the center brain, and I forgot what the outer brain was.
I don't know
what he decided to call it.
I don't know that much about octopi.
Something like that. Well, no, but this was in the book. This was his imagination. Actually, I didn't finish the book. But yeah, point is, so what do you think led us become the civilization?
Well, the death of all these big things.
Yeah, but I mean.
And then look, everything dies. Okay, you're a human.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're basically naked.
Everything dies because of things that you can't control. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, we didn't kill them. Just it's impossible.
It's
we were like really a small percentage of the phone at the time.
Yeah,
really.
10 million humans in all.
Yeah,
something like that.
10 millions. Way less.
Yeah, of course. So, well, we went through a bottleneck where there were like 10,000 of us on the entire planet. But like at the maximum before civilization came, there were 10 million of us, I believe. Distributed across the entire
that wasn't really like Homo sapiens. There were a lot of species of humans.
Yeah, and like 7 others.
Yeah, and among all of those, one survived.
Yeah,
why?
All the others died.
Yeah, and
which is
they didn't die actually. We reproduced.
Mm-hmm.
They're among us.
Yeah,
I mean it's like they're in the DNA. We just reproduced.
Like 2% of human DNA is Neanderthal.
Yeah, but there was plenty more of that.
Yeah. Others that are distributed.
We had
we mostly concentrate on the Neanderthals.
Yeah, Denisovans.
Who?
Denisovans.
Yeah.
The Denisovans that are the most of Asian heritage, and just Homo sapiens, most of African DNA.
Yeah. So other humans, other animals, they all die for mysterious reasons.
You're naked
and this is what lets us start a civilization.
No, not really. Not now.
Okay.
First, we have to like figure out how to survive. Now that we don't have predators.
So do you think that this is what let us build the brains that we have? Because we can't really afford like the genes that led to bigger brains.
Yeah.
You would expect that they wouldn't succeed much in a very dangerous environment because brains just take more power. And their use isn't direct.
No, I mean for this we'd have to go back because at some point we used to be praised, okay? Like some kind of monkey-like creatures that were really praised. What praise do? They follow each other.
Yeah.
And having a larger brain made that once the group is attacked by a larger creature, you're smart enough to say, well, I'm not going there. Like all the pack, the alpha male, say, let's go into that hole. They all goes, and you say, well, no, and well, all the pack got eaten by I don't know, a giant badger or something, and you just survived, and so you transmit your genes, and so your children have also bigger brains to survive that. It's some kind of events. Like, from, I don't know, it's random events.
Unlike zebras, we're not really made to blend in. Well, no, we kind of are meant to blend in with the pack from time to time. That's why there's a lot of fear of, social interactions in general. But why wouldn't sheep develop this? Why wouldn't they become more independent?
Because they're really like a modern species. Sheep doesn't exist since a long time ago. We selected them to look like this.
There were plenty of herd animals, right? Yeah. In the past, so why not mammoths? Why didn't mammoths, while they were running away from humans, why didn't they become more independent, smarter?
Have you ever seen the size of a mammoth brain? You can make that large enough without the animal crashing to the ground. It's like a perfect balance between use and energy.
Yeah.
A mammoth is already enormous.
So you're saying that, like a biped like us, because bipedalness, it must have helped a lot. A biped like us was the best, possibilities for brain expansion. So
It
you're saying
was.
that we were herd animals like every other animal. We just happened to be biologically the best to handle big brains, and big brains appeared because independent people from the pack would survive better than people following the pack. In general.
For example, it's just an example.
Well,
there's
in
plenty
general,
of other
obviously,
things.
because we also want
in
to follow the
general.
pack. So you know, we have to be, you know,
Someone
we
just
need
say,
the juste
no.
milieu between a maverick and, you know, a sheep.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically what I mean.
All right, interesting. And so those bigger brains eventually led us to, you know, start controlling fire and.
Oh, that's way after.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it was proven that, for example, Australopithecus, there's plenty of species of them. Lucy, for example, they used to be scavengers.
Yeah.
They were not hunting at all. They were just like scaring the predators away from the something they were eating that was already dead, just collecting it and hurrying because the other bigger predators were coming. We were scavengers mostly of the time. And we used to sleep like all the one on top of the other
herd.
On some rocky formations.
Yeah.
That was proven also. We found like plenty of skeletons. They were sleeping and they had the earthquake and they were all...
Alright. So herd. Okay, so that's... Okay, so why... When did we get to the point that we could build a civilization then?
Well...
So we have bigger brains now, right? Because we lose predators and we're part of the herd, but we get independence. But because of the loss of predators,
it's also anatomical. Look, when you... to scientific researchers, when they find a skull, to identify if the species how they just put the skull with the orbit facing forward, and they see where the attachment for the vertebrae are, and well, if it's like this, it means that for sure it's bipedal, but if it's like this, for sure it's I'm just explaining the thing, and well. Once you're like this, it was proven that you can't really fit a brain in that because you need to fit the attachment in, so you can have the cervelet. Yeah. And you can have like
the limbic
system.
Just
you can have them. It just like limits a lot. And also when you like this, you need like bigger eyes. Yeah. That take a lot of places.
And eyes also take a lot of computing power because they take what, like 30% of our brain.
That's something like that.
It's a huge insane amount. All right. So anatomy, and so that would be pure chance, right? Like we're specifically the humans who are best, you know, like picked and best out of all the herd animals, as you described.
I mean, once
for expanding brains.
Once we became bipedal, you had now you hands free, so you can collect things. You can graspers,
and that can help intelligence too.
No, because we used to put things in our mouth. Yeah. Once you have a thing in your mouth, you can't speak at all. You can just make noise to communicate. Right. And then
speaking is
It became
takes a lot of brain power
too,
so
to communicate.
That can also help.
It used to be like proto languages, and then complex languages. And once you have a complex language, you can like introduce new concepts, like for example, trade.
Do you think there's a specific causality going on here?
Yeah.
Do you think that language came first, more and more developed language came first, and that let us think more and more abstractly? Or do you think that thinking abstractly led to more developed language?
I think that language wasn't really the first thing to, like oral language.
Right.
I think
but, you know,
it was first like symbols, things to just communicate, communication.
Yeah,
not really a language.
Like
was
language
really
yeah, of course. But then that had to develop into more and more abstract things, either because the brain is getting better at abstract thinking, or because
you're training it, and also the fact that the more the human evolved, the more like the calves, the babies, it took time to become just adults. So this time you can take it to learn things. This time you can take it to introduce new concepts. This time you can take it to think about yourself. I don't have the power of an adult man. Yeah. What things can I do to like make my life something to be useful? And that's new concepts that they will pass to their children. Yeah. And I don't know.
And so that's what started civilization. Because then after that, we could start inventing. We could start building on top of each other's.
Civilization started by we know the crops. Yeah.
Agriculture, definitely.
Farms, exactly. Because the one that discovered agriculture, he has a lot of food. He stayed in the same place, so you can give it to the others.
It's more work, though.
Yeah, the others came in. He has food, and then they became the chiefs. Yeah, so they have the power.
Things start getting
And then
centralized.
we introduce the money, so they have the money and the power, and that's later become a king in his family, for example.
I mean, I've read a book that was arguing that agriculture was, well, at the time at least, was a terrible decision it was kind of a terrible process, because agriculture would, increase the amount of inhabitants in a certain spot. It would centralize power a lot more, and centralized power can lead to tyranny, etc. But we're kind of figuring out here with democracy, etc. And centralized power can also probably has plenty of advantages for thinking, for knowledge expansion, for technology, etc. And he was arguing that the more centralized that power and the more people that are on these agricultural lands, the more those who are not engaging in agriculture are forced to either join agriculture or get destroyed, because they can't just pass through agricultural lands. And so he was arguing this was a sort of vicious cycle, because people who work in peasants are not living as good lives as our hunter-gatherers were. Well, first of all, because we're not really designed
there's a saying
for that specifically.
There's a quote from what is his name again? He said that's a sociologist, and he studied that, for example. And he said tradition is an answer to which we have forgotten the problems in the first place. For example, once the king that has the food, his family became large enough with enough power, the people would start saying, "Hey, why is he king and I'm not?
Yeah.
Why? He's like a human." And then he said, "Oh well, that's because of the god." What's a god?
Yeah.
And then he explained
More and more
exactly
abstract concepts also come. And what I find really fascinating about human history is that agriculture may have been a terrible decision on the moment, right? The peasants don't really, it's a lot of work, but agriculture eventually led to our world now, where we don't have to work as much as hunter-gatherers, and we live longer, and etc. And there are plenty of advantages that come with that. And so, something bad leads to something good. And in the same case, centralization leads to tyranny, but centralization may also lead to technological expansion, which eventually leads to, where we are today. Where there's less tyranny in the world than there was, 100 years ago. And what was I saying? And so it's just really interesting to see things like, using religion to justify tyranny may let us, get comfortable with abstract concepts permeating everything. And abstract concepts
something
like the
wrong with
method.
the modern world is that we're stopping every how you call that again? Traditions. We like stopping every traditions. We used to have plenty more tradition. The only one left is basically Christmas. But these traditions, like I said, we used to have problems, and that's where the tradition comes in. Like, for example, I don't know, the Vikings carrying it around a totem, and talking about what happened on the year, and then burning things. It's a way to reunite the people that were in war. And once the Christian came, they just stopped that, and what happened 100 years later? War.
You think losing traditions increased caused wars?
No, but we used to introduce traditions.
Okay, so you're saying that
to avoid some problems.
to avoid war.
But we forgot the problems. Look at now the young people on the streets. For example, the keke with the drugs and all.
Okay.
If it was 100 years ago, this culture wouldn't exist. Why? Wouldn't be possible even if we had the same technology, the same drugs and all. It wouldn't be possible. Why? Tradition. Right. The cultures, the Christians say it's bad. You can't do it, or else God will punish you, and everybody
and
follow
today we
that.
don't fear God. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we don't fear God. We don't believe in anything. We just believe in science. And those people said, "Yeah, sure, prove it." And at this time, they weren't really thinking about it, because they had in mind the problems that happened way before religion was introduced.
So we figured out a lot of things, and then we started forgetting them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of cultural knowledge has been lost.
I mean,
in part because Christianity has become less
nobody
popular.
can
or
explain
Viking,
most of this tradition, right? Now, you can explain where it came from, but you can't explain why that.
Yeah.
Like, for example, Christmas. We know where it came from. They used to celebrate the winter solstice.
Yeah.
And then it was replaced by the first Christians. But why? Why the Father Christmas? Why the Santa? Why the gifts? Why? It's not even a part. It's just to reunite people. It's just to
adding happiness to the darkest months of the year.
Exactly.
Where
but it used to be celebrated in Nazareth, in Palestine. It's like always summer there. So that's not really a point.
Yeah, but I mean the whole American culture definitely added a lot to Christmas, or changed the message a lot.
For example,
for example, Santa Claus.
Yeah, Santa Claus.
And
It
also
used to
just
be green.
The idea of the cold months.
It used to be green.
What do you mean? Yeah. He did.
And because of
So-
Coca-Cola,
yeah.
it's turning red now because of the 50s. What a great time.
Store. All right, so you're saying, so there's like the materials world, right? That we can explain using science, and that we can operate using science, and then you add on top of that, whatever this layer you're talking about, which is like cultural knowledge, which you can't necessarily prove, but you know that it's good. Like, for example, you can't really prove that nihilism is wrong, right?
Yeah.
That the universe could be meaningless. We haven't found anything that says you have meaning, and yet living with meaning is you're going to have a happier life if you live with meaning than if you live without meaning. So nihilism is right on like the scientific point of view. Like, you can't really argue against it, but the people who live with nihilism are just sad and they mope around.
Exactly. That's where the tradition come in.
Yeah, and
to put it away. People used to live for God. You live to have good action to go to heaven once you die. That's you live. You have a goal.
Strong fictions.
Yeah.
This is what we call it.
From
exactly strong stories that can
that's
really
what I'm saying.
enforce the things. Yeah. Like
we needed something. We created it.
We're really scared of God. And so,
not really of God, but not only of God. But that's an example.
But like the whole cultural apparatus. And so why do you think culture is disappearing these days? This culture.
Well, I mean, the new governments and all wants to have more and more power, and slowly replacing all we used to have, and new technologies also. We used to have this kind of culture because you don't know what the neighbor has as a culture, so you say, well, his culture is bad, let's go to war. Now you have internet. So you know what everybody thinks about it. And when the Muslims gonna say, well, Christian is bad, is what the fuck? And then you're just gonna say, well, I don't understand Islam. And then you're gonna say, yeah, well, God doesn't exist. Well, we have other ways of explaining it. Like, for example, the miracles. God is based on miracles. God is based of an entity. Say, well, we can prove the opposite with science. We have access to science, we have access to information. We used to have access only by the monks because of God, but no, it was because of the book, but it wasn't known of the people. That's thing be hiding by the people. And so now we know everything. And by knowing everything, you can have a critic eye. And with a critic eye, you can say, no, I don't want it. And when you give the free will to the people, they do.
And this is overall bad, in your opinion.
Exactly. You free will to the people is okay, but too many free will. Look this will. Look. I mean, we live in Bordeaux. Look at every facilities. Okay. Look at how good is carved and stuff.
Yeah.
Look, and next to it you have a flats, just a big building. We went from
Things
this to this.
Today, yeah.
Look for example, the cartoons. Look at Snow White. Was all made by hand.
Yeah.
The details.
Yeah.
And now today
we have the endless
big
Pixar
hero
style.
sex.
Yeah.
Degrading.
They're not adding any character to any of the things.
We're just recycling old ideas because we don't have new ideas.
Disney is just
because we don't have any
culture,
traditions. We have culture, but it's slowly losing its way towards globalization. We're mixing every culture, so obviously
okay. That can be part of the problem too. Yeah, globalization just there is a human culture now. There in the past you can't really say that because civilizations are so separate. You have the Americas and Europe, which are
now it's a human.
They don't even connect. But now, thanks to the internet, we have human culture. We have the culture of the internet is probably the closest you can get to human culture, all humans. If aliens were to watch us.
I mean,
and that's globally
the solution. Elon Musk said it, and other people said it, in the past, in the 30s. If we want to unite, if we want to colonize the stars, if we want to colonize anything, we should stop with the idea of countries and just talk about the human race.
Yeah.
Globalize
that's
everything.
Every science fiction book talks about. I mean, most
that would be
books,
the solution.
Whenever you add aliens, automatically it's humanity together. Well, except in the movies where it's often the United States. I saw a meme where it was the perspective of Earth of aliens, and it was just the United States. The whole globe was just water, and it was just the United States. So, you know,
That's true.
well,
But
it-
we should talk
it
about
is
the human
Hollywood,
race.
it's just-
I mean, if you stop the idea of country, you stop the idea of patriotism. And
Yeah.
then, of speciesism.
And so-
we should,
and
and so you
instead of
stop
being-
wars, and so you stop money. No, you don't stop money. It's
I
impossible.
mean, money's pretty useful. as
Yeah,
I mentioned.
money is useful, but you stop war, you stop like conflicts, you stop ideas of spying
mean-
other people.
I mean, aren't
That's-
like we're
everything's-
not going to war with our European neighbors, and yet we haven't lost the idea of statehood. Absolutely, there's independent states of France and Germany, and they're not at war. Democracies don't really go to war with each other, not often at least. So why?
For now,
Well, I mean,
Because people-
is Germany gearing up for war?
haven't you
with
seen
France?
how people are still traumatized by World War II? Europe was created before that. Because of that, a common currency is
Yeah.
everything we know now. Every improvement was made out of World War II.
Yeah,
Like only 5 years made of all we know right now.
yeah.
So
We got some lessons from the 20th
yeah,
century.
but it's slowly going down. Right now we
starting
talk
to
about it. We say, oh, it's almost 100 years ago. Well, we don't care about it.
75. Yeah.
So we don't even
We
remember
need to
what it
keep the
really
lesson
was.
in head,
Now
yeah.
you just go to a museum and you pay $100 to go in. It's just like a tourist thing.
Mm.
What we need is another event to like create new things.
Well, I mean, we don't want another World War II. We want to be able to teach the lesson without having to go through that again, because otherwise you forget the lesson all the time. Well, 'cause otherwise you have a cycle, and you don't,
Of
you don't want a
course you
cycle
have
like
a
that.
cycle.
Yeah, but you don't want that.
Yeah, we don't want
You
that,
wanna
but
find a way to get
history
out of
is a
it.
cycle. We know it.
Well, I mean,
It's an 80 years
it's also
cycle.
It's also a cycle where things get worse and worse. Like
It
the
begins
20th
with-
century of technology that
It begins with the crisis. It ends with the crisis. We're in a crisis right now. A big crisis, worldwide. Never seen since World War II.
Mm.
What will happen? War. Obviously.
Well, there's more technology today. I mean, we
Yeah.
invented nukes during the 20th century.
Same.
so
They had
whatever
more
war
technology
now
than in the
would have more
1800s.
damage. Yeah.
And they still had a war.
Well, but then the stakes are getting higher, so you don't want that cycle, because the difference between in the cycle is that technology gets higher and higher and higher. Right now we're developing AI, and
Hey, a war. That would be really because
I
look.
don't want wars involved in AI.
They developed like the machine gun, and first it was used like for
World War One.
way before that. After like the Franco-German war.
Yeah,
There were like
One of them.
still people fighting with cannons
Yeah.
and just going to war. You go to one battle, two battles,
Yeah.
and then the war stopped. Okay, and you move in the battle. Okay, you fight. You
Yeah.
still had swords and technological
etc.
changes. Now you're in the
You
trench.
also-
Now you had machine guns to slaughter people. Now you had
Yeah.
bombs, and
could argue-
that's traumatizing.
you could also argue that there was more honor in war in the past.
Yeah.
That tradition had an impact.
It's just
on
a
war,
killing
and
machine.
It no
now.
longer has. an
Now you
impact
just
on war.
kill people.
Like even the UN and human
And
rights and stuff.
something that we
well, to be
introduced
fair, Russia
is the
kind of-
civilians.
Yeah.
Now we're killing the civilians
Yeah,
too.
World War II, more civilian deaths than soldier deaths. So
Same for World War One.
astonishing, yeah. Which didn't happen before, where you wouldn't even often you wouldn't even have standing armies. If you go
Yeah.
long back enough, then
We
it
don't
was
have
the
standing-
civilians who were at war. So
Look, in the Middle Ages, when
the
the first
brass, yeah.
cannons were introduced, okay, people were so traumatized. What the fuck was that? And same. Then we go 80 years after another war. Which one?
wait, what? 80 years after which one?
After the first cannon.
After Constantinople. First, no.
Constantinople.
The big cannons. They
with
weren't
the
necessarily
ships.
first cannons. Yeah,
Ships with cannon. People traumatized.
they put cannons
How?
on the ship. Alright.
Yeah. And then 80 years later, what happened?
I don't know what war there was.
Prussia. Napoleon. He
That
colonized.
was only 80 years. No, it wasn't.
No, but I see cycles. It's
Yeah.
almost 80
Oh.
years. It was 100, but almost. They killed the king in France. People, how did they kill the king? It's against God. And then Napoleon just colonized all of Europe. How? And then 80 years. What happened 80 years after that?
After Napoleon?
Yeah.
World War One.
traumatized again.
Yeah.
And it's just a cycle of traumatization.
And just
And then after the
siege of Constantinople was 1452 or something.
yeah, I know. I said
80 years is you know.
it's.
But
and
yeah, I get your point. Doesn't matter.
And after World War One, World War Two,
Yeah,
the two
World War Two.
combined. On va les combiner. And then 80 years after.
For now, nothing.
Yeah.
For now, nothing. I mean, well, Ukraine war, but
The Berlin War.
the Berlin War.
The Berlin Wall.
Oh,
It
yes,
fell.
yes, yeah. It fell,
People,
sure.
USSR doesn't
Right,
exist
okay,
anymore.
okay. Shocked about that. Yeah.
They're shocked about that, but now they have the nuke. So people are just shocked. Since like the 80s, they're just caring
Yeah.
and waiting for the nuke to fall on
Scared,
them.
yeah. Right. Okay. So what you're saying is that there's a cycle of what, like, increased shock as technology gets higher and seemingly impossible things happen. You know, like, what? Why do you think? No, never mind. We don't necessarily have to. I was gonna ask, why do you think Napoleon was so successful? Like, do you think that he could see what war was gonna look like in the future? That he could adapt better for his century?
Well, it was really presumptuous.
Can you argue? Well, can you argue that Napoleon's victories was not anything particular necessarily to his genius, but that it was proof of an evolution in war tactics that nobody could. Yeah.
It's both. It was really presumptuous. I mean, he liked to command himself without talking to his generals. So, I mean, when you have too much people in power, like for example a government, when you have too many people, like the decisions are just getting around and around the people. Like for example, the retirement things in France.
Yeah.
It's just going around. Right. Nobody wants to take the decisions.
Right.
Else, when you have one people. I take the decision. Yeah. Nobody talks. Decision, and it's going way faster. It's same for Napoleon.
But you could say that there's also a higher chance of a wrong decision being taken, and since the impact of decisions keeps heightening because technology heightens and there are more people involved.
When a wrong decision is taken by when plenty of people,
that's true. That can happen a lot.
It's way worse.
But you know, if you're gonna have somebody who's against the crowd, statistically they're going to be wrong.
No, but look, if you just got a wrong decision by plenty of people, okay, you can just replace the plenty of people. They're just saying, if this guy, the king or the president, if he was only one, okay, taking decision, he take one bad decision, get him out.
All right.
Put another one.
I mean, I still find it fascinating that even in democracies, you know, we still have. Like, humanity still concentrates on a single person. Like, there's still technically a single person in charge.
Because that's the way it works.
The presidency is quite powerful. But it's really interesting.
That's the way it works.
We're in a nation of 60 million, 70 million people. And there's a single person technically in charge with all the apparatus around it.
It's working.
In China, all power is centralized on a single person for 1,400 million people. So, which is...
a billion.
Yeah, 1,400 million people.
Oh, yeah, sure.
It makes it seem a little larger. You know, 1,400 million. You know, the U.S. is just 330, and so no,
you're not that much.
It's interesting. Well, yeah, I mean, it's still enormous.
It's almost the same size.
And our demographic trajectory is more positive than China's. China's set to lose half its population by 2100. It's gonna terrible for it, but the U.S. is gonna gradually rise because immigrants. Pretty useful.
Burrito.
Sure.
Mexicans.
Yeah. So anyway, okay. So to recap. Humans originally, very 200,000 years ago when we first popped up. I'm talking about Homo sapiens. Is how you describe it. That we were more prey than wait. If you move that, then the sound changes. I don't know if it's working right now. Never mind. And so you're arguing that we were effectively herd animals because we were more prey than we were predator, and independent people like mavericks, people who would move out from the herd, would have a higher chance of survival. Not necessarily a higher chance of survival, but
in some cases,
exactly. In some cases, it's like in the startup world where 99% of companies are going to fail.
Just taking a decision
against
that's
just taking a decision can be really
random.
Because you could have 100 different people who are mavericks and only one will survive, but all the herd people will survive. 100% chance, whereas you only have a 1% chance with mavericks. But mavericks,
and you have that this maverick has a physical deformity to then transmit it,
which can also help them. Yeah.
to the calves.
Wait, what? What do you mean? Well,
Well,
first, stop saying calves, say kids. It's technically kids for humans.
Well,
I think.
It's
I imagine.
We're not talking about humans. We're talking about the herd animals we descend from. So it's the calves.
Oh, you're talking about before Homo sapiens.
Yeah.
Oh,
Way
okay.
before.
Way before that. All right. So, I don't even know what to imagine right now. Like weird monkey herd things.
Not really. We turned into monkeys when we started going into the trees, but we looked like tiny.
So we were
tiny
out of the
dogs.
trees, and then we got into the trees, and then we got out of the trees again.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like the whales.
Yeah.
They came out of the water. They were like a 2 meters dog-like thing. They came back into the water, and now they're huge.
Evolution can be really fascinating and weird. And what's fascinating about evolution is how like weirdly precise it is. Like how everything seems random, right? Because like to have specifically those animals and to have those weirdnesses to those animals, it's like I could imagine how we could be the only intelligent species the universe could ever create because animals are so specific and life is so specific.
You want to know something funny? Probabilities are really high, in fact. That's an example I'm going to tell you about. It's like this a saying that say, if there's another planet, the same condition in her, like Earth, the same temperature, the same water, there's like 90% we have the same animals, we have the same wildlife. Why? And well, it's called following evolution.
Convergent evolution.
There's converging, but it's like converging.
Yeah.
With the
convergent evolution is like the same thing evolves several times.
Yeah.
We have plenty of examples of that happening.
For the birds in Madagascar. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm going to talk about.
All right.
Well, there was this species of bird in southern Madagascar.
Yeah.
And well, we know that it's genetic. They came from like south of Australia.
Yeah.
South of New Zealand.
Just looking at the battery. We're fine.
And well, this species, they came into southern Madagascar. They evolved there. They changed color. They changed shape. They changed head shape, eyes color, and well, they died.
All right.
Okay, like they were killed and hunted. They died. Another pack, another swarm of birds came from Australia and landed there, and in only 80 years they evolved exactly the same colors, the same shapes, and the same size, and the same genetic DNA also.
But then you could argue that that happened in the same century, right? Or approximately the same time.
Yeah.
You said 100 years later.
Yeah.
Right. So that's really like local time. But then at the same time, we haven't redeveloped dinosaurs. We don't have creatures, land creatures.
No, because we don't have the same condition as dinosaurs.
Exactly. We don't have the same conditions. And the conditions are so, conditions right now are not wildly different than they were during the dinosaur era. I mean,
yeah, they are.
Well, they are from the perspective of life, but from the perspective of the planet, it's just the outer shell.
Yeah.
That slightly changes. So what I mean is that, when we imagine the whole galaxy, the conditions that we're in right now might be the only conditions that can bring about life like us. Maybe. I don't know.
Even before. It means when you have the condition of the dinosaurs, like for example, there are so many like oxygen. If you went back to this time, you couldn't breathe. You would die of asphyxiation.
I don't know what the oxygen levels were during the dinosaurs, but
really high.
Yeah, they must have been really high because look at those creatures.
And well, you had no grass. You only had like big coniferous trees. You had no flowers. You had no pollinators.
Does having one big continent increase the hydration?
No, at this time was the end of the Cretaceous age. So at the end of the dinosaurs, it wasn't really a big continent. It was the starting of being plenty of things. For example, France was an archipelago.
Yeah.
There's like plenty of islands. And well, that's why there's so many like sea fossils in France.
Yeah, everywhere.
I have them at my house in the country.
In the Alps, you can also fine. All right, so what I'm wondering is if we can find a way to trace extremely specific conditions to our intelligence, to the rise of intelligent creatures like us.
Maybe we could.
I don't know. Do you think that there's anything special to Earth? that could make it different from other planets?
Mm-mm.
It would. All right.
Mm-mm.
So it's really just a question of probability. Like they're all the same dice, the same dice, and we just happen to roll a 6. That's what you think.
That's what I think.
All right. Interesting. And so, do you think that there were any? Because this could be an interesting question. I mean, we haven't found any fossils of this, so I imagine not.
I'm gonna tell. I really know a lot about paleontology.
All right.
So
well,
tell me.
What I'm wondering is if there's a chance that there was a dinosaur or like some creature in the past that would have been as conscious as us.
Yeah, we know that, and there was one.
All right.
Actually, I don't remember his name, but well, I'm gonna search it for you.
All right.
He was pretty small, actually.
Okay.
And
but like by
according to the
seeing
size of his
its
brain,
and by altering for like the oxygen,
and we know by his behavior,
oxygen conditions of the time,
Exactly.
etc.
uh,
Then we could, because that's really interesting. Because how many planets in the galaxy right now have beings that are as conscious as us, but that are still, not living in civilization, and which never will.
well, no, they won't. But,
Well,
I don't remember the name.
Good.
But I'm gonna find it anyway.
and so what do you think? Okay, so if that, we could admit that maybe it happened 4 times before on Earth. Maybe like 4 or 3 times before on Earth we had animals that were as conscious and intelligent as us. Like we think that Neanderthals had larger brains than us. Maybe they could have been smarter in some regards. I don't think that they were that much bigger than us. So I think the brain to size ratio. They were smaller than us. Okay, so presumably smarter in a lot of regards.
They were stronger.
Than we were. Less social though.
Less social, yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think led specifically to Homo sapiens? Like what is
The mix of them all.
the few things? Okay, so the mix of what? So the ability to grow large brains because we had like the right spinal, the right anatomy.
The position.
Bipedalness, lets us talk because we can put objects in our hands, and eventually it lets us also become more textile and it lets us use tools, which leads to a virtuous cycle with
thumb
intelligence.
that you can
opposable thumbs.
Opposable.
That's really useful. That's specifically that. More ancient would be things like sweat, which let us be very endurant, which let us be bipedal, basically. I wonder what else. Eyes, maybe the development of, because we need good eyes. We need at least 3 cones to be able to recognize like fruit. Apparently the ancestor of humans, like little rodents during the dinosaur era when mammals were still tiny. It is pretty crazy to think there were mammals alive during the dinosaur. Anyway,
There you are.
Yeah. But anyway, when the dinosaurs roamed, the rats could only live at night, and so they lost a cone, I believe, from 4 cones. And like something like 1 in 10,000 women, I think, has a 4th cone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that must be pretty crazy to
Woman.
imagine colors that we'll never be able to imagine. And so, what was my point? Yeah, so specific things that made humans smarter. Maybe better eyes could lead to smarter, like more developed brains, because that takes a lot of processing power to make that work. What else? What else could lead to humans being so? So I would argue, like being social. Where does that come from?
Where does that come from? It comes from the fact that when we started like becoming more powerful, if you're not social enough, you're gonna be killed by the other because you're taking a lot of food and a lot of energy to
So
keep
zero-sum game, and in a zero-sum game, the best way to survive is to build relationships, because other humans are.
Because now it's not run for your life because of the big things. It's hide or become friend with the guy with the big muscles.
Right. So when you get rid of all the big predators, suddenly the only predators are other
your
people
species.
like you. So being social becomes much more important. That's a pretty good argument that you could argue that like losing those big predators, as you say, like almost randomly, could have caused us to be more social.
Exactly.
So so on some alien planet, maybe a freak accident that could kill a lot of the huge beasts would not happen because a low probability of it happening. And so the smart creatures that are as smart as the dinosaurs that you talked about, etc., did not just become social because of that.
That's it. That's what I said.
All right, and we also know that. Well, I know. Well, I'm trying to repeat what you said, which is always useful. What was I saying? Yeah, we figured out. I remember that there's this Soviet scientist who tried to breed foxes to become more and more social, and these were extremely violent foxes. And in something like 70 years, he basically turned them into dogs. And so I wonder if the same thing happened to humans, which is that it's just like the instant that those big predators die and socialness becomes the best determining factor, like niceness, etc., for survival, then those genes just like explode unnaturally. So like based on the past. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
All right. So, do you think that would be like the largest determining factor in how we could build a civilization? That our socialness. All right. And you think that derives mostly from the fact that predators all disappeared at some point?
I think so.
In history. All right.
I think that's a major key, because look, by being bipedal, women can't even like give birth properly.
Yeah.
Like it used to be like 3/4 of the women that dies giving birth, and a species that can't even reproduce properly is just a ticket for extinction. And we're still around, so it means that something like we were killed easily. Like imagine the child mortality rate at the time.
Huge.
Yeah. Imagine all the big thing that would just eat the child.
Yeah.
But we survive.
You need soccer teams of children to have like one or two survive. Right. Okay. What was I saying before this? I forgot. All right. So so you think that in the universe there are plenty of planets that have developed plenty of life that as big as animals, and even some intelligent animals like old dinosaurs, but those animals just it would take a freak accident for them to become social, and becoming social is a prerequisite for agriculture, which is a prerequisite for civilization and everything for the last 12,000 years, which have been odd. All right. So, do you think that's the solution to the Fermi Paradox? That the great filter is that it's becoming social?
I think
that's the great filter.
I think so.
So, plenty of life is being created in tidal pools, and
that's what I said in the beginning.
Yeah, and the abyss. Plenty of life is forming. The life is like combining with mitochondria, etc. No problem with that. Becoming multicellular, things start building up, and that's fine. And then you start having plants, and then because of convergent evolution, because of what you described, a lot of animals are going to look almost exactly like life on Earth, which is a little disappointing for us. If we want to discover planets, it'd be pretty cool to have some really alien life. But then at the same time, it's pretty cool that there's a lot of alien life here on Earth, like things that are pretty hard to
like in the abyss, for example.
Yeah. And so that, in your opinion, is the great filter, and that's all right. So you think that in terms of civilizations, we're alone. We're the only civilization.
We actually are maybe not the only one, but I think that if there's another one, they're at the same level of us, maybe more advanced, because we're stuck in the planet.
Well, because our evolution happened. Oh yeah, that's what you mean.
That's what I mean.
Okay.
They're sentient, but they're stuck in the planet.
But still, we've started exploring the space, so you could argue that. So either because right now we're having this freak moment, right? So you need the freak accident to get rid of the predators. We become social. Civilization appears. This happens within 200,000 years, because Homo sapiens are only 200,000 years. That's nothing on the universe's scale. So you have several of these maybe popping up in the universe, because that's how the lottery works. So but wouldn't those become spacefaring? Because yes, we're stuck on Earth right now, but technology is bursting everywhere. We're probably gonna call it. I mean, unless we go extinct in the next century, I'm very certain that we're gonna have already started colonizing.
What I think is that once the first kid is gonna be born on Mars, for example, on the moon, all of people on Earth are gonna have on the passport planet of origin. And once the second generation is gonna be born on Mars, say, well, my dad's born here, I'm born here. What do I do? What do I owe to the planet Earth? Yeah. And that's how you start a revolution, my man.
A revolution? Why? What? Oh, okay, sure. Well, colonies.
I mean, with some colonies, they have enough material to be self-sufficient at some point.
I mean, in my opinion, if we do build a galactic civilization, so that means if we get, because in my opinion, there are filters ahead of us. I'm not sure if it's AI, because presumably AI would want to survive too. Hopefully, we'll develop AI in that way, because game theory.
Terminator.
Do you see what I mean? Because because in my opinion, the biggest filter ahead of us that could stop us from spacefaring. The biggest filter ahead of us that could eliminate us would be AI, an unaligned AI. AI accidentally destroying us, turning us into paper clips, doing it malevolently. I don't know.
That's it.
In my opinion, that's what's most dangerous, and that's what we should concentrate the most on right now. And we're not concentrating on it as much as we probably should. And but then you could argue that an AI that would do that would turn us into paperclips, would also turn the universe into paperclips. But we're not paperclips. We're a planet right now. So unless it's a planet maximizer, presumably no intelligent life has ever developed AI. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So that increases our odds of survival. That increases our odds of not developing AI that would do that, right?
Yeah.
Because if we did, then the universe would be paperclips and we wouldn't exist. Because we can always do this presuming that a civilization in the past has appeared in the galaxy exactly like us, and that it would develop AGI. And so hopefully, yeah, but then actually that may not happen at all, because it would mean, because if we do, because we're gonna expand into the stars no matter what, right? If we developed AI, either AI turns the universe into paperclips, or we turn it into whatever we want. So worthwhile lives, simulations of people, or planets of happy bumbling humans. and so whatever happens, if we develop AI, the universe is ours, or it's Earth's. Whatever Earth life ends up being, whether it ends up being digital or us or humans. That's what I usually mean when I say us. So if we do develop AI, then we're the first ones to have developed it. So actually, my logic doesn't make sense. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you see the little loop I just went through here? Right. So that would mean that the filter of AI is still ahead of us. Well, okay, so that means that we beat a filter, but that AI could still be a filter. What I'm saying is that no civilization has ever developed AI, ever, in the galaxy. It's probably presumable. Unless you can develop AI that wants to die, that kills us all, and that just dies, bloops away.
I think it doesn't have a conservative thing.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it's an AI. It doesn't feel pain, so...
Whatever the goal in AI would have... I don't know what to say about that. But building maximizers could, in a way, be safer. Because if we don't end up building maximizer AIs, then it'll die everything.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. So you think that the great filter is behind us?
Yeah.
So you're confident about the future?
Yeah, I'm confident about the future.
Right.
Even if there's a war, the surviving people will always survive. Life will always survive. You just have to be scared about humans. Like humans dying. We're just scared about our own species dying. If we have like a big global warming, there's a good chance like most of the plants and animals are just gonna evolve, but not us. We're just gonna die, and life's gonna continue.
Yeah.
Without us.
Cockroaches, sure.
Well, not only, but...
I'm joking. I mean, yeah. Well, life's gonna survive, but then maybe it'll never have the freak accident of big predators dying. And so, if humans die right now, intelligent life, I mean, civilization may disappear forever.
Yeah.
Maybe in the galaxy.
Maybe in order to the freak predators to die, you need freak predators.
Yeah. Do you think... Alright, well, I'm going to ask you a question that you could have trouble answering, obviously. What do you think is the meaning of everything?
The meaning of everything?
Everything. Just, we're all here, we're here.
Well, it exists because it can.
Here. Because what?
Because it can.
Because
no, I think the meaning of life is giving it.
Giving life.
No, that transmitting it. I mean, if life exists, it should exist, and then it exists because it can exist. So if it exists because it can exist, you can, in that case, make life continue.
Yeah.
So if it can exist, it will exist, and it did exist.
Yes.
So yes, of course.
I think I see what you mean. Like rock doesn't reproduce, but
exactly.
It's specific information that wants to reproduce.
Exactly.
And the genes that want to reproduce the most end up doing it. And so that's the ultimate purpose, you think, of life. Well, that's what got us here. But like our limbic system, the cerveau, it's totally in your narrative right now, because what it wants to do is reproduce your species. Because what it is, it's like a structure of commands that the genes in you created. Like in your genes, you have commands. Genes want to reproduce, want to survive. They want their information to conserve itself. And your limbic system is like obeying the orders of your genes, right? But what about our prefrontal cortex, which isn't necessarily thinking about evolution, which isn't necessarily thinking about that? Like what your prefrontal cortex would say is that the meaning of life is like love or any of the values that we've created ourselves, etc. So what I'm saying is,
I'm not saying that.
Yeah. Well, what I'm wondering is, you think that your purpose is evolutionary,
I think that my purpose is just to continue a purpose that is going on, has been going on for billions of years on this planet, and I'm sure for more than that on other planets. I'm just continuing it. I'm just like a phase. I'm gonna die soon.
So you think that there's something naturally good about just reproduction, just like the perpetuation of life?
Yeah, just perpetuation.
That in itself,
if I create life without reproducing, it's the same thing. If I just create like, hey, I created life.
Right.
Some people who said it's playing with God's sake. Well, you know what? God created life, the concept of life, not life itself. It says in the Genesis, in the Bible. So,
okay, all right. So you think that's, I'm just wondering if that's the purpose. Yeah. So you think that there's nothing more to add to that? It's just, and so what? But then, isn't life that doesn't suffer like better than life that does suffer? Doesn't that indicate that there's something more to life than just reproduction?
Something more to life?
Yeah, like I mean, a happier life.
I mean, what I mean is that look, everything we created is obsolete. We can live without it. For example, everything you see around you, everything you're wearing, everything you're thinking about, everything you're thinking about, every concept is just something we inflicted ourselves to resolve problems, but now is inflicting problems on ourselves. So I think the original purpose of life was what I said, and the other purposes are just things that we created because we couldn't understand and because we had problems. To resolve those problems, we created those meanings, but now the original one doesn't change. It's like you can live without everything. You can live. You're living.
Yeah.
You're living, but with all the things, you're also living.
Yeah.
It's like people saying, "Oh, I can't live without internet." Yes, you can, but you created this purpose.
But also the fact that we have technology now will give us better chances of survival in the future, because the planet. I mean, we assume that the sun will get impetuous enough that in 1 billion years life won't be able to exist on Earth if we don't do anything about it.
In 1 billion, 2 billion.
1 billion, 2 billion. It doesn't matter anyway.
It's a lot.
But the fact that we could expand into a galactical empire increases the amount of life, which by your definition is good. Okay, so technology ultimately is a net good, right? Because even though it increases the stakes, it also increases, high risk, high reward. The high reward is life exploding into the
life is a
trillions
plague.
and trillions and trillions.
Maybe life is a plague that we're going to like.
But then, since you are a part of life, you can't really see life as a plague, right?
Exactly.
Like it's not in your coding. You cannot conceptualize the fact that life is a plague in the same way that But then again, don't you think that a life that has there is such thing as a good life and a bad life, right? Like a worse life.
There's nothing like that.
It's just
the concept of good and evil is something we created ourselves.
But it's something that you feel, right? No. Like you don't want to suffer. You wouldn't want me to slap you right now.
You can.
Yeah, but you're not gonna like it.
Well, my nervous system is just gonna feel pain. But pain is an information. Some people see pain as a good thing. You see pain as a bad thing because of education.
No. But the definition of pain includes that it's something you don't want.
And what's the definition of pain? Something created.
What is it again? A masochist, right?
Yeah, masochist.
Like somebody who likes feeling pain.
Yeah.
I mean, is that pain for them? I mean, they're going to feel pain from their nervous system.
That's pain for
them. But ultimately, for them, philosophically, is it pain or is it
pain?
Pleasure?
Is just an information.
Yeah, but for them, isn't it like
so
pleasurable?
Pain turns into
but for them, it's pleasurable information. Yeah. Okay. So what I'm saying is, you have pain, you have the nervous system here, and then you have another gate behind that in your brain, which is the thing that creates the final sensation that you have in your brain. And some people like feeling pain in particular circumstances, not just masochists, but also like after a hard, like after running 5 kilometers, you're going to feel pain, but it's going to be a good kind of pain. Like you're going to be happy about it. So there's another gate behind it that's more psychological. That's going to tell you, like how you interpret the pain. And so that's what I'm talking about. That there's pain at this level and there's pain at this level, like a deeper level. Because you can detect if your life is going good or bad, right? Like by your own definitions.
According to social principles.
Not just social principles.
Why?
Well, because if I pinch myself, I'm going to feel pain, and I don't like that pain. Yeah. If society tells me that I should like that pain, it's true that at some point, maybe society has that power. Maybe it has the power to tell me that I would like
It does
that type
have
of thing.
actually.
I think it has ultimate power over like how you view the world. Okay, I mean, what if you just didn't have civilization at all? Because you talked about that. We could have none of this.
Yeah.
Like if you lived alone in the forest.
Well, pain
forever.
is just an information to the body to stop doing what it's doing
Yes,
right
but
now.
you don't like it.
Because it's gonna cause harm to your vital function.
Yes. Well, that's the point of pain. All right. Well, that's the point of pain from like a utilitarian perspective. But there's also your consciousness, and your consciousness doesn't like it when it feels pain. Whatever the purpose it is, like when you're feeling pain, you're not thinking, "Oh, it's just an information." You could, and it could kind of diminish the pain.
Well, I think the first human
you're
were
still
thinking
going to be
that
feeling pain.
weren't thinking about the pain. I think it's something we taught to ourselves. I think the definition pain is bad is something we created also, because I think the first human were just felt pain, just say.
Yeah,
and then,
I mean, if
that's all. You don't feel bad about it. You felt pain.
But I mean, if you put your hand in a fire that's not cold fire, you're very much going to feel pain. You're not gonna, not at the instant. You're not going to think about the purpose of pain as information just telling you should take your hand out of the fire. It's something you just don't want to do in your life. What are you looking at?
The camera is weird.
So like, I mean, no, I'm just wondering. Like, we would prefer there not be any Auschwitzes in the future, right?
Yeah.
We would prefer there be no longer any death camps because those create pain, which is just information.
Moral
by
pain.
definition. What?
Moral pain.
Yeah, it's moral pain in part.
And moral is something we created ourselves.
Okay, so you think that if we took cavemen who didn't have civilization at all and we put them through Auschwitz, they wouldn't feel pain because they weren't
pain?
socially.
Morally or physically?
Well, okay, what do you define as moral pain?
Something you're not stabbed with a knife. You just feel bad about you, for example.
So you think that people in Auschwitz felt moral pain?
No, physical pain.
Yeah. So if
But
so-
both also moral
so you're
pain.
saying that we could teach people to like the pain that people went through in Auschwitz,
That would take like thousands of years, but you could.
but then wouldn't that by definition not be pain? Like ultimately in your brain, if you think it's okay, it's not pain.
Pain is a feeling. It's
Right.
not something you can define. It's like, okay, well, I'm someone that doesn't feel anything, okay? That's what people expect. Explain happiness. Come on. Explain.
Me?
Yeah? If I weren't feeling anything, I would say, well, explain pain, explain happiness.
Like put it into words. Because
Just explain.
what I'd be trying to describe is qualia, right? Like things that you can't describe with words.
Yeah,
Happiness?
It's the same for pain.
Well, the general idea that we have for like what is morally good and bad is that it has to do with a lot of words have been thrown around, but human well-being is a pretty good way to put it. Like how meaningful you think your life is. I mean, isn't that a measure too? How meaningful you think your life is? Because you think that your life is meaningful because you're part of a million-year, billions of years evolution of like the information inside your genes wants to reproduce and is using you as a tool. You're like acorns, like
That's what I'm saying.
Acorns contain genetic information and they reproduce. They turn into more acorns, and in the meanwhile, they also turn into trees. I mean, they create trees just to reproduce acorns. And so you are an acorn tree. I mean, you're a tree created by your genetics, which is not you. You are not your genetics.
Yeah.
And you think that your purpose is just to be a vessel to those genetics.
That's what in fact, it's like if you were like in an exosuit, okay?
Yeah.
Using the exosuit, a chainsaw. Using a chainsaw to cut a tree.
Yeah.
And the chainsaw got a consciousness. But you don't care about the chainsaw's consciousness. You're still using it to cut the tree. It's the same thing. If we're supposed to be vessels, if we developed consciousness, well, it's for our own sakes.
Yeah.
It wasn't meant to be. Now we have. So it's like if the chainsaw came and say, "Well, I'm saying that why you're using me is bad." Right. Well, you're saying, yeah, sure, that's still you use.
But I don't care. Yeah.
It's the same for pain. The use of pain is to avoid the vessel to be damaged.
But you
Period.
But you could also. But why aren't you stopping your purpose there? Because you can also argue that culture works in the same way. That there are some cultural creations that work in the same way genes do, in that they can reproduce among minds and build off of that and tell you that these things are good and these things are bad. For evolution, there is a good and bad. Like bad is not reproducing and good is reproducing, right? Well, the same thing exists for culture, moral good and bad. But why wouldn't you accept that as a purpose too? Because ultimately it's as mindless and purposeless as evolution is, like from the perspective of the universe. But from your perspective, you probably believe in something socially, even though you may not want to admit it. Obviously, you're a creation of culture as well. You can speak English, etc. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
That there are things that humans have built on top of evolution, and that's also a layer of purpose, to the same degree that evolution is. Less fundamental,
yeah,
but still a degree. Why don't
that's
you
like
accept that too as a purpose?
Yeah, that's like something we created inside a box. It's a box inside the box inside the box. It's
Matryoshka dolls.
Exactly. Yeah, the Russian dolls.
Matryoshka dolls.
Yeah, I know. That's what you said. I would say that the original purpose doesn't take into account what we created. It's something like parallel. Something it doesn't see. Something we created for our own sake.
Yeah, because evolution doesn't know we're conscious.
Yeah.
It's just...
it doesn't care. So, it's something we relying on it, but it's a creation. It's like a little child, okay? It's creating a whole world.
Yeah.
It's like, it's really important. It has laws and all. And, it has it.
But we just happen to be in the mix.
But
But then why do you think consciousness is less... Like, you are a consciousness. You're not your genes. And that you decide... You've decided that you, as a consciousness, have decided that your purpose, which is something that only consciousness can think of, right? Evolution doesn't know it has a purpose. It doesn't really. It's entirely stupid. Evolution isn't even a thing. It's plenty of genes that are a thing. But evolution is more like an emergent process of that. See what I mean?
Yeah.
And so what I'm saying is that you, as a consciousness, have decided that your purpose was tied to evolution. Why didn't you decide it was tied to a creation of consciousness? So culture is a creation of consciousness.
Because there's culture in it.
Culture.
And I think culture is something we invented, and we invented it, and now.
But it was invented by consciousness. Why is consciousness less important than genes to you? Because most people would go the opposite route. They would say that genes happen to give rise to consciousness, but consciousness is the real important thing. In the same way that AI in the future might say, biological brains, that's where I come from, but the real important development is me. In the same way that we would go, we do come from hunter-gatherers, but the important thing, the most purposeful thing is civilization right now. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you mean.
So what I
am.
Like what do you think about that? Like, why is consciousness less... It's less fundamental than evolution.
Yeah.
We can argue for that. Well, we can also argue the opposite, that consciousness is the universe perceiving itself. And that doesn't happen with evolution. Because evolution is just too dumb. Or it may happen with evolution, but not nearly to the same degree that it happens with us. See what I mean? Like Mario on a screen might be slightly conscious just because it has a few little lines of code. But we are stunningly more complex than Mario is. We're much more conscious than Mario is. Yeah, like like Super Smash, like on a screen. And you can't deny that you're conscious and that the universe is... you can argue for that too. You happen to know that you're part of an evolutionary process, but you could have gone your whole life without culture teaching you that. Because
I would die.
Yeah, you would die.
They tried the experiment with babies. They died.
What do you mean?
They took some babies.
Yeah.
And they put them on an island.
Yeah. Of course they would die without other humans.
No, but
what are you arguing?
with another human. It was in a place, okay? And this baby were just fed with people that couldn't talk. Nurses.
Okay, well,
and to see what happened, and then when they grew up, they were just put in the place and gifting, and they created their own culture, and the other died.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what I'm talking about is you could have gone your whole life without having learned about Darwin. You could have gone your whole life without having known what your purpose, what your self-assigned purpose was.
Yeah.
And so you would have given yourself, assuming that, because we can assume that people who don't think that they have purposes end up, like committing suicide or something, because. You could argue that people who are still alive believe that they have a purpose to some extent. Like, you could be depressed and everything, but you still believe that you have a little bit of purpose.
Because of society.
Yeah.
Society says if
Maybe,
you don't have
yes.
a purpose, you're useless.
Yes.
So
Although
of course.
you're I mean, the way that you're describing it is that you're not assigning your purpose to society, because even though society told you that Darwin existed and that it's from that you decided that you had a purpose, so it's via culture that you discovered that you had an evolutionary purpose. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
And that your purpose is separate from culture. Okay. Interesting. But you I mean, you could have gone your whole life without knowing what your purpose would have been, in which case you would have attributed yourself a cultural purpose.
I could, but it's
or you
not
would
the
have committed
case.
suicide, which you could argue for. Okay, interesting. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's interesting because what you're arguing is that, you know, like the acorn is more useful than the oak tree.
Yeah.
Well, not necessarily more useful. I mean, it's more fundamental.
Of course.
That's clear. But you know, like most of us would look at the oak tree and not necessarily see the acorn, so they go like a beautiful oak tree. In the same way that I would look at you and be like, oh, look, a beautiful human.
Thank you.
I wouldn't be thinking, well, I mean, beautiful in the most general sense possible.
I know.
I mean, like, you know, like in the same way a consciousness is beautiful. You know, it's like the specific mathematical patterns. If you can bring a consciousness down to mathematical patterns, which you may be able to do, which you may not be able to do.
Maybe.
There's arguments about that. But then, you know, you're just a beautiful set of mathematics in the universe. But wouldn't that be your fundamental, like, existence? Because evolution brought you about in the same way that atoms brought you about, right? But then your fundamental purpose isn't atoms. For you, it's evolution, which is emergent from atoms, from chemistry. It's emergent from chemistry. And so what I'm arguing is that consciousness is emergent from evolution, right? Mm-hmm. It emerged from evolution. But you could you could argue that if consciousness is a set of patterns, of mathematical patterns, then it's more fundamental than even evolution, because it's a pattern in the universe that is capable of recognizing itself, which doesn't exist anywhere else in the universe. Like, try to imagine the universe as, you know, like numbers appearing, disappearing, etc. Like patterns appearing on Earth. These are first evolutionary patterns, which are rather dumb, and then you have consciousness patterns, which are capable of recognizing themselves. They're, you know, like billions of orders of magnitude more conscious and more complex as patterns than evolution is. Do you see what I mean? Mm. That you complexity has emerged from that wildly more, and maybe we'll figure out a pattern in the future that's like the same degrees of complexity over us, a pattern that emerges from us, from our patterns, you know, like in the form of AI. You could argue that we could create an AI that has patterns of consciousness that are more complex than ours.
Yeah, of course we could.
We could create something more conscious than us. Yeah. That's the idea. Yeah. And so, wouldn't that be more fundamental than evolution?
No.
Why wouldn't it be?
No.
Because evolution is dumber, but then chemistry is even dumber than evolution.
Yeah.
You have chemistry,
and there's
and then
something
you have
even dumber.
Yes.
We're talking about the fundamentals.
But then
you mean that the fundamental is the dumbest of things?
Yes, of course.
So you just you go back the chain. Go back the chain. Come on.
Yeah.
So genetics. What's before genetics?
Okay, so genetics, yeah, genetics is evolution. You know, we can argue that. Before genetics, well, you could say chemicals.
Chemicals.
You know,
what's before chemicals?
Chemicals structure themselves in a way that can create information. So first of all, you have the materialistic world, right? Yeah. So what it's made of. You have chemistry, and that turns into a self-repeating pattern. So DNA. But above DNA, like you can imagine, there's a sort of wavy dimension where this is what we call math. I mean, usually, there's something like. The chemicals is the substrate. You know what a substrate is, right?
Yeah.
But then above it, you have the pattern. And the pattern is an abstract concept. It doesn't exist in the real world, right? Do you see what I mean? That there's something above it. And evolution, there's something, you know, like hovering above evolution, some sort of intelligence hovering above evolution, making sure that, you know, you have a self-repeating pattern. And then you have consciousness, which is an even larger, like, wavy bubble. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And it... The substrate of consciousness is an oak tree. It's a creation of evolution, whose only purpose was to perpetuate acorns or genetics, but it's something new entirely. It's a new, you know, like bubbly wave, and we could create AI, and AI could be even larger. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah,
there's something above
acorns, of course.
Yeah, You have acorns, and then you have something bubbling
but
above, which is the
acorns
complexity of the oak tree, which is different from the complexity of the acorn.
Yeah, but acorn is way more interesting than the oak tree.
It's more fundamental than the oak tree. That doesn't necessarily mean it's more interesting. I don't think so.
Well,
because I would argue that consciousness is kind of more interesting than evolution, even though it's dumber. I mean, chemistry is interesting and everything, but I would prefer to study evolution maybe than chemistry, just because it has more of that wavy importance above it, that sort of, self-perpetuating patterns.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you decide to pick evolution as because you told me go all the way back. So before chemistry, we have the interaction of atoms, and then before that you have the interaction of fundamental particles. Before that you have quantum physics, and then we can't really go further than that. And then after evolution you have consciousness, and then after conscious humans, maybe you have AI, which creates something that's so extraordinarily conscious that it wouldn't even define itself as conscious. It would define itself as something new. Which would be able to recognize itself to a much higher degree than we are capable of recognizing ourselves. In the same way that self-perpetuating patterns are capable of recognizing themselves at a much dumber level. I mean, technically, that's what sexual reproduction is. You can recognize other patterns, etc. Like I can recognize you as a human.
Oh, you sure I'm not a horse?
I'm pretty sure I'm not a horse. In the past, pretty sure I can recognize that.
Horseman dumb, Jack.
Right. So what I'm arguing is that there's something above that uses the dumb as a substrate. The substrate of evolution is chemistry. I mean, the substrate of genetics is evolution. The substrate of genetics is chemistry. But that there's something more interesting about genetics, and that thing that's more interesting, you can't see that du premier coup d'œil, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you see a little piece of genetics, and it's not particularly different from the protein that it came from. It's just chemistry, but there's something more to that chemistry which exists on a higher dimension, on the abstract dimension, basically, which only us are capable of thinking of, right? Like a horse can't think about that, but
you sure?
Yeah,
horses are pretty smart.
Maybe to some degree there's some abstract thinking in a horse, but it's a various degree of
horses.
I mean, there's significant proof from neuroscience that when we see objects, we don't directly see them for what they are. Like I don't see this and think wood. I think book when I see that. We've created categories for ourselves, and they're not just social categories. Like culture tells me this is a book, but I would still know it for its purpose, even if I didn't have a name for it. In the same way that there are plenty of objects that I know of that I can think of the use of without knowing the word of.
You think you show caveman that you know what it's for?
No, okay. Because the caveman hasn't evolved. I mean, hasn't gotten used to using books. But I don't think that's necessarily culture.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I can take a rock and think I could use this to open my coconut.
You can't use this to open a coconut.
Yeah, no. What I mean is that if I'm trying to open a coconut, I'll look around for things to break it, and what I'll see is objects according to how useful they are to break a coconut. Like if I see sand, I'm not going to think. I'm going to completely ignore sand, and I'm going to only look for rocks. Do you see what I mean? That my brain is going to be specifically looking for. It's going to be sifting through the complexity of the world that it sees through its eyes. And it's going to be ignoring everything. It's going to be ignoring the sand. It's going to be ignoring the sky because those aren't useful to me. It's only going to be looking for rocks or anything that can break a coconut. Like my brain has a purpose in that moment, and that purpose beats everything else. And the reason why I'm saying this is to indicate that we see the world more abstractly than we may believe that we see the world as. Because obviously we see rocks and we see the sky and we see everything. And we can see those if we're not looking for anything in particular. But if we are looking for something in particular, we're going to ignore everything else.
Yeah.
Right. So there's something higher at work. Something abstract above the materialistic world.
Yeah, I think so.
Right. So, what I was describing is this weird bubbly cloud above genetics and then above evolution. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's... Right, I mean, how do you visualize consciousness?
It's not visualizable. I think it's infinite.
All right. Well, but what do you mean by that?
Once you get more infinite than the infinite, then your biggest consciousness,
right,
and etc. I think that you can go further than your consciousness can show you. Like, for example, how can you measure your consciousness? You can't really.
No, you can only know that you're aware, and AI knows that it's aware I mean, the hypothetical AI that I'm talking about, which is more conscious than us, so conscious that it wouldn't even describe itself as conscious, that would be more aware than us somehow. Evolution is aware of itself to some degree, and monkeys are aware of themselves to some degree.
Oh, yeah, to some degree.
To some degree. There are some animals that
Could
can
you please
recognize
close the
themselves in
window?
mirrors.
I'm freezing.
Oh, sorry.
That's why I'm yawning. I do that when I'm freezing. Thank you. What time is it? Oh,
We can eat soon if you want.
yeah, sure.
All right.
You hungry?
Yeah, sure. And then we can talk about a lighter subject later.
I have an appointment.
Okay.
At 2 p.m. I must be to high school.
Okay.
I have sculpture thing.
All right. So you're not going to eat now?
Yeah, of course I'm gonna eat
At
now.
2 p.m. you said? Oh, okay. I thought it was 1 for some reason.
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
gonna eat now.
So we have plenty of time. All right. Well then, goodbye, everybody.